4 and call me in the morning.
All right,
All right, let's
roll
roll
this
this again. I'm going to make it a quick one.
Please enjoy this feature presentation of the Crooked River Radio Network. This program is rated for all audiences.
Welcome to the Nanosecond Podcast. With your hosts, Erik Nannarone, Nick Goglioni, and Pat Morrow. Interesting topics, intriguing conversation, and entertainment. Erik, Nick, and Pat will be right with you.
Hello and welcome to Nanosecond Podcast. We got the crew with us. I'm Erik.
I'm Pat.
Evan.
I'm Pat.
And-
Take 4. Woo woo. Take 4 and
Should
call
have
me in the
everything
morning.
good now.
Yeah,
So,
We're looking good now.
Today we're talking Northeast Ohio weather for tomorrow because it's gonna get possibly choppy. Then we're talking Brown Stadium update, and then we're talking new NFL kickoff rule, and a little teaser here. We have a little announcement for Sunday's show at the end of today. So, little cliffhanger there.
There might actually be something coming next week for this show. Never know.
Yeah,
All you can do is stay tuned.
yeah. That would mean I'd have to actually do some work. on
And you
booking.
might actually have to work for a living.
Yeah. I might actually have to put some effort into booking people.
Oh, good heavens.
That's a lot for me. I need a booking agent. No.
Yeah, I need to be booked, all right,
Yeah.
into the crazy hole.
Crazy house.
Yeah, whatever. You know what I meant.
Yes, I know. I'm not even gonna touch that.
That's what she said.
Yeah. Oh wow. This show's turned already off the rails so quick. So let's get into our first topic.
Really? You want to?
Let's get into weather.
Whether or not there's going to be any weather or not. What do you think? What do you think, Evan?
Yes.
Is it weather or not?
Weather. There will be weather.
Well, whether or not there is weather or not, I guess we can go ahead and talk about that. Seriously, if you live in the Northeast Ohio area, clear down as far as Columbus and further, there is a rather large storm system that is coming through here that's got northeastern Ohio in the bullseye. And let me go see if I can bring this up here. Give me a second here. We'll go over to there.
quick breakdown of our weather for tomorrow. I appreciate it, Pat.
Not a
Not a
problem.
problem.
There is a slim chance, because I don't get off work till 6, so if the weather's not here yet and it's safe to do it, I will be live on my YouTube channel with one of my weather people, Ethan, on top of maybe Pat if he's not busy. I might have both of them on to talk about it, but I might be on my Nanosecond Media YouTube channel tomorrow with a weather update. So I don't know if my work schedule will allow me, but I'll try.
I will say one thing. There is enough concern about this that the Weather Bureau doesn't usually do webinars unless there's something really serious that they feel is coming. Like I know the one we had concern Hurricane Sandy.
Mm-hmm.
They were all over that a few years ago. But they have decided that at 10 o'clock in the morning they're going to do a webinar. And I plan to be up and functioning and on that call because I want to hear what they've got to say. That way I can advise people.
If you can, like, I'll be at work, but if you can kind of keep me updated throughout the day. I know you're kind of busy in that situation, but if you can kind of keep me updated on what you're hearing.
I'll do what I can.
I know.
That's about all I can promise is I'll do
I
it.
know.
I'll do
Oh
what
no,
I
that's
can.
all I want, is just so I know that I could keep, everybody updated in case we have to go for cover at work. I can kind of let management know, hey, this is coming and we better be safe about it. We better take cover so we don't die.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's just
The other thing that I'll say is a lot. If you watch Facebook, which I know a lot of you do, and a lot of you watch the social media stuff, the thing that's different between myself and those reports and stuff like that, those reports are not coming from the NWS normally. You might see pictures from them, but the actual synopsis of them is not coming from the NWS because they haven't put theirs out yet. It doesn't come out till it won't come out till after 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. So what the difference is, I got my information is going to be as accurate as the NWS can get it. And that's why a lot of people listen to me instead of the other places. They do not to break my arm, patting myself on the back. But they do a lot. The TV stations do a lot of hype, and I don't get into the hype at all myself. If I'm about as direct as a doctor would be with you. If there's something wrong, I'm going to tell you there's something wrong. And if not, I'm not going to bother you. So there you have it.
And that's the way it should be.
Well, these stations do. Not only the stations, but you've got even that 330 place on the they've got their own weather team and this and that and the other thing. I'm sorry, but I don't know how accurate that's going to be. Because even the NWS is saying that they're not really going to put a synopsis out until tomorrow morning. And so it's all hype.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody can say, hey, look out for tomorrow. But there are only a few of us know that you're not going to know until tomorrow. Because these paths on these things can change dramatically from what they've drawn up. A map is just what a map is. It's not telling that storm where it's going to go or anything like that.
Is there a way to pipe in the like the ham radio into the computer that, or would that be illegal? That like you could stream like live updates.
If you want
on the
updates,
station.
you can just go to somesky.org and the NWS, or if there's anything happening as far as ham radio, you'll hear it there first. That actually monitors the 5 counties that are preceding Summit. So if there's something happening there first, you're going to hear it there.
Okay, sounds good. I will.
And as far as the NWS, you've already got there. You can listen to them anywhere. 162.400 for this area, or 162.55 for the. Anybody that's got a scanner can listen to those. 162.55 is Cleveland. But enough of that. Enough of taking up this sports show for weather like that. Now let's get into some arguing. I'm ready.
Hey, I'd rather. This isn't just a sports show. This is a everything show. Everything but politics. And I want it that way. I'm not the Backstreet Boys, but, you know, I still want it that way. If anybody got that reference, please shame me for that.
Eric, shame on you. Eric, shame on you.
Too bad we couldn't get polka music for Dingus Day. Because that's today, by the way. Happy Dingus Day, everybody. But, that's just a side note.
I might be able to come up with something. You give me enough time.
Okay. We'll talk, and let Pat, go get something. But, I first want to touch on the Brown Stadium thing before we have a knockdown drag out debate over the kickoff rule, which I know we will. But so there was an article from Cleveland.com comparing the situation with Municipal Stadium when Municipal Stadium was built, and Art Modell lobbying for that, and what the Haslams are doing with the Brown Stadium and possibly buying the land in Brook Park. And there's a lot of similarities with that. It gave similarities and differences, but I feel like if either of you read that, you can tell me what you thought. But I feel like there's a lot of similarities in the way that Haslam and Modell are, like, Haslam is handling it and Modell handled it, because he was pushing the city hard, Modell was, by threatening to move out of Cleveland, and look at what Haslam's doing. Unlike Modell, Haslam won't move it out of Northeast Ohio, but he might move it out of the city limits. You know, what do you guys think? And maybe we've covered this already. What do you guys think about moving it out of the city limits? It could help the economy in Brook Park. You know, where do you stand on it?
I'll defer to Pat first, you know, but I have my thoughts. I'll tell you in a little bit.
Moving it out of Brook Park has it, or moving it out to Brook Park has its advantages. Number one, he's going to own that stadium by himself. He ain't going to have to worry about what the city tells him. From what I understand off the 6 o'clock news, they're going to try to use the the rule that if he moves the team, he's going to have to change the name. Because the city of Cleveland voted in their ultimate wisdom when the Browns' name and colors came back that nobody could move the team again without they could move the team, but they'd have to give up the colors. And makes no sense. But what it comes down to is, there's more behind this than what. How many times have I said stuff like this? There's more behind this than anybody knows. There's more
But at the same time,
there's more behind this than anybody knows about, Eric. And I'd put dollars to donuts that a lot of it has to do with the money issues. Because Cleveland wants to make the money off of their team, and they see it's going to start taking off and stuff again. And they're not going to let that. You saw back in the... I hate to bring this up, but you saw back in the time of the old Browns. Or Modell went out and he bought 170-some thousand acres or whatever. I don't know what the hell he bought. I don't really care anymore. But he did basically the same thing. It was a threat to try to get them moving. Haslam's doing the same thing.
But at the same time, they... I'm losing my train of thought as I'm talking. But... Oh yeah, at the same time, they're not moving out of Northeast Ohio, and there's other teams that are in the in suburbs of the town that they're in.
The whole thing comes down to, Eric, and like I said, it's a lot of money. The whole thing comes down to, and they pointed this out on the sports, I think it was on Channel 3 that I was watching. They're trying to bring up that he can't move the team out of Cleveland proper without giving up the name. And personally, if I was him, I'd think about it. And you don't have to go down. But there again, it's like the discussion we had last week, Eric. You could. If he was to move it out and had to give up the... Excuse me, I got a little salt there. If he had to give up the name, he'd give up the name, he'd give up the culture, whatever, the past, traditions, and you could start it fresh. And then it'd be just down the block from him. But Cleveland has been known to be spiteful like that. And they're stingy as hell with their money. They don't like it.
The mayor is from one of the poorest parts of Cleveland. That's why he doesn't want...
Well, so was Mike...
the
so was Mike, what's his name? The old mayor.
White.
Mike White, yeah. He was from the poorest part of Cleveland. And he did the same thing, except he was lazy. He went running after Modell and Company the day after they flipped and left, and left the contract laying on the ground.
I get it, but I don't understand why they couldn't keep the name Cleveland if they moved to Brook Park. Because use Buffalo as an example. They're in Orchard Park. They're not in Buffalo proper.
But they
That's exactly what I was going to bring up.
It didn't start out that way, though. They didn't start out being in Buffalo
Orchard.
or Orchard Park to begin with.
But they are now.
And they've been there for years, so they are pretty established in that town.
And I don't know. Well, LA, they're not in LA, they're in Inglewood, which is outside of LA.
Mm-hmm.
Both teams are in Inglewood, which is outside of LA. So, again, why couldn't Cleveland keep the name if they moved to Brook Park? when other teams are in the suburbs, and couldn't have them fight legally, fight the city, and be like, well, we're still suburbs, and there's other teams in the league that even Dallas, I don't think is in Dallas, is in Fort Worth.
Actually, Arlington, and before that, it was in Irving. It's that area that's called the Metroplex, but you're right, it's in the suburbs.
Yeah. So, it's still, so there's so many examples of teams that, especially in that league, that aren't in the actual city limits of where that team, what city that team claims to be from.
You seem to be missing the stuff that we talked about last week. It's not.
What do you mean?
It's not about. It's not about where they're from. It's the tradition. And I seem to remember you didn't like tradition.
So, like, still, keep the name Cleveland. Like, why are you not keeping the name Cleveland if using all these examples of
how can you sit there and say that when Cleveland owns the right to their own name? And they don't want, if you want to move that team out of Cleveland, and Cleveland owns the rights to the colors and the name, you ain't moving that. I don't care what you say.
Look at the Cavs.
It don't matter either.
Richfield. They were Cleveland.
We're talking Apple.
So
we're talking apples and oranges.
How were they able to do it back in the day?
Because Cleveland didn't own the rights to the name then. This Cleveland Browns team is different than any other sports team. In any sport. The whole fact of it is, because of all that issue they had back in the 90s with Modell, they made a law, and it's on the books. They made a law that said if whoever owns the Browns team does not own the name and the colors. Cleveland proper, or the Cleveland government has the right to say what happens with it because they own the name. And if you go to move that team out of there, you're going to have to drop the name.
Okay.
According to what I was seeing on the sports thing earlier.
Okay.
And they're the only team in the history that's done that.
I don't know. I mean, I know that land isn't Cleveland anymore, but that land used to be technically Cleveland proper. I know it's not now, but maybe they can figure out something to sell it back to the city of Cleveland, because that land was Cleveland. Then Cleveland and Brook Park swapped, so Cleveland can have the IX Center and Brook Park would have that land. I don't know if you guys knew that. So maybe Cleveland could somehow buy that land from Brook Park again.
Not if they don't want it. I hate to be the one that keeps sticking the finger in the ointment here, but if they don't want it, it's not. They're not going to waste the money on buying it back. But Cleveland can be stubborn.
Yeah.
And just say, we don't want you to have our name if you're not going to be in Cleveland.
Okay, I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that.
So you can move and call them the Brook Park idiots or whatever you want to call them.
I don't care. I'd be fine with calling. Nobody knows where Brook Park is, but But I'd be fine with changing the name, you know, like I said last week. And it sounds, I know it's one person's opinion, but this is a trusted opinion. And since it's Jim Donovan who works for the Browns, he could say, I think they're going to get a new dome, but I feel like there's some knowledge behind that, not just his opinion. There might be some stuff he might know, because he did say he quote-unquote thinks that the Browns are going to get a dome and not just renovate the stadium. But I feel like that opinion also has some stuff behind it, because he has the connections within the team.
Just like politics, you're gonna have 4 years to argue about this. And at the end of the 4 years, they'll either come up with something, or Haslam will get fed up with it and move them anyway. But the whole thing of it is, if Haslam's going to build himself another stadium and be out of that municipal stadium by 2028, I think that's when the lease is up, he's going to have to crap or get off the pot.
I was just going to say, he doesn't have 4 years. He has a year and a half. They have to start planning. If they're going to build a new stadium, they have to start planning and putting together blueprints, like, in the next 6 to 12 months.
I bet they're already started.
Yeah. They better start. I mean, I get it's an extra billion, but why would you renovate the new stadium for $1 billion, or old stadium, current stadium, for $1 billion, when you could get $2 billion? Oh, and by the way, build up the area around the stadium. I know it would kill the Cleveland economy, but you can build up around the stadium, hotels.
It ain't gonna hurt the economy down there. I'd be hard pressed to believe that. Evan, what do you think? You've been up there.
I'm intrigued to find out exactly what the Hasms have planned. They are going to have to show their hands here real soon. Eric is right about that. What I thought was interesting was I did some after Eric sent me the link to that story, I decided to read up on the Buffalo Bills and exactly how they ended up in the suburbs. Now, it turns out they originally started out as an American Football League franchise in 1960, which was the competitor to the National Football League. You know, they merged in 1970, but I mean, that's a sidetrack. They started out on the east side of Buffalo in a place called the War Memorial Stadium. It had this funny nickname. It was locals used to call it the Rock Pile. It was built during the Depression. It was it was a Works Progress Administration project that was designed to give people jobs and something to do, and it was built on the east side of Buffalo. And the problem with that old stadium was, number one, it was just falling apart, which is why it was nicknamed the Rock Pile. Number two, it simply could not house enough people that the NFL demands from its franchises. The old stadium there could seat 35,000 people, and the NFL wants 50,000 seat stadiums from all of the teams. And since that wasn't viable, apparently for whatever reason, the land wasn't available or something like that, Orchard Park stepped in and said, hey, we have all of this land available. We are more than happy to build you guys a new stadium to your specs. And that's exactly how Ralph Wilson Stadium came to be. Now it's had a bunch of other names since it was opened in 1973. But the one thing that I found kind of strange about that stadium is that stadium, I don't even think was ever intended to have a dome at all. I would be curious as to why that never even became, a thing for the Buffalo Bills. It seems like a dome stadium only really became popular when people decided, oh, we're going to award a Super Bowl to a particular city, and their franchise will be hosting the Super Bowl. And only then did a domed stadium become anything desirable. I mean, after all, the Detroit Lions, they played in the Pontiac Superdome for a lot of years, and I think the Lions played in an open air stadium before that. Same thing with the Minnesota Vikings, and we already know about the New England Patriots. There's another example of going to the suburbs, Foxborough, Massachusetts. But you see where I'm going with this. It seems to me like the only reason that you would build a dome is if you wanted to host a Super Bowl. That's really the only intent, purpose, because people have been going to cold weather games for ages. Going to
not necessarily. I'm not sure I agree with that synopsis.
Hold on. Before you say what you're going to say, Pat, unless you're money hungry, and billionaires are, building a dome, you can host a bunch of events during the winter, non-football games. You could, I know we have the convention center in Cleveland, but a dome stadium could hold way more than the convention center, and you could have concerts. You can hold NCAA tournament games at in a dome and get 50 to 70,000 in the crowd in the stands versus 24,000 at Quicken Loans Arena or Rocket Mortgage, whatever they call it now. But at the same time, you're gonna get way more in a football stadium dome, and these big conferences will want to come to Cleveland because they, like Big Ten, they play the championship at Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis. Well, that's because they have, I don't know their full capacity, but probably 60 to 70,000. New Orleans, where they play the Final Four, or they have in the past, that's a football stadium, and that's 50 to 70,000.
Yeah.
So
I've been to the Superdome. I know exactly how big. Sure.
So having a dome is gonna help substantially. I mean, I understand, this is Cleveland, we play outdoors, but to what you said about
the best music on your radio, you've got it right here.
Hi, this is Mick Jones.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
I'm looking for the music that I just downloaded for you,
Oh,
and I'm not
Okay.
finding it.
okay. That's fine. I'm just like, okay. We got we had a guess for a second. But I thank you for sidetracking me, Pat, because I lost my train of thought. But
Anytime, buddy, anytime.
Well, all right. Here, I'll put out another question. When this current stadium was being built, why wasn't a dome even considered part of the plans? And I think the main reason was it was considered a rush job. We needed to be ready by a specific date to have the new Browns be ready to play games. Now, what they could have done, and this is common with other teams, like the Chicago Bears, when Soldier Field was being renovated, they found another place to play. In this case, they went to Champaign, Illinois, and they used the University of Illinois Stadium. Now, we have Ohio Stadium in Columbus, and that could give plenty of time for the Browns to make any and all the modifications they need for a dome or to expand the capacity or whatever it is that the ownership wants to do. There are plenty of workarounds, and we've seen examples by other teams that have done it.
that stadium isn't constructed. Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for. Constructed to be able to fit a dome over it. That's the problem. And anyway, they're not going to be able to build up the lakefront because they wanted that land bridge, and when they couldn't get that land bridge that connects all of downtown Cleveland, that I think set the wheels into motion to find another place. I think Haslam was really ticked off when they couldn't get that land bridge.
Or maybe it was just that it was built when he wanted it done. That's probably more the issue than anything else. I think that the city understands that they need to develop that lakefront so that people can use it for a lot of other things. I mean, that's a perfect, Chicago is another perfect example. Everything that happens along the lakefront, and that's because the city took the time to plan out what they wanted the lake shore to look like and what they wanted people to be able to do while they were there. And this land bridge, I as far as I know, it hasn't even been completely torpedoed, and it may just be, well, what time is it going to be done? The city knows that they have to make these changes if they're going to keep people coming to downtown, and it goes beyond just the stadium itself. It's just that whole section of the lakefront. That to me is prime real estate. We talked about Burke Lakefront Airport and just how underutilized it is, and that to me would be a prime parcel to have if the city would just decide that we're not really doing much with that parcel. We might as well find something else to do with it. It seems to me like it's barely even a commuter airport, for businessmen. To me, you could do some of the same things that Burke does right now by just creating some kind of heliport.
I can tell you right now that Burke Lakefront Airport is going nowhere.
Yeah, I mean that's it exactly.
And they are not moving it. They are not going to do anything different with it. It's been that way for a lot of years.
I mean, they're renting out parts of it for podcast studio. Like, I know that doesn't mean anything. Like, if they wanted to sell the building, they could, say to that podcast agency, you have to find somewhere else. But, they're renting out parts of it for other business. So they're making money for rent. So the money that they're losing from flights, they're gaining back and renting it out to other businesses. So they're never going to close that down because there's always going to be money flowing in.
I would be curious to know or find out what percentage of money is being made by renting out the space versus the current use for the airport. It seems to me like it's one of these underutilized properties, and typically cities are not in the business of buying up real estate unless they have some grand design on what they're going to do with that space, which is the reason why, as Pat said, the airport isn't going to go anywhere. They just don't have anything that they want to do with it right now, so it just sits there. And to me, the city could start thinking about better ways to use that airport. If they don't want to give it up, they could at least start thinking about some other more practical things they could do with it. They could make more money. I'm sure that they make a little bit of money from housing the podcasting company, but that's just one tenant. If you have this large parcel of land and it's not being used at all, you wonder what's going on there. It's like developers. If they see a fallow piece of land, they typically want to go in and buy it from the owner and build it up. It's just a natural phenomenon. That's what
I guess.
Cleveland says they want to build up the lakefront, but they haven't shown, their word hasn't been backed up by action. So, and
if they wanted to build that lakefront up, they would have done it. They would have started that 20 years ago when they started talking about it. When they built that old stadium, the one that the Browns are in now, they were talking, oh, we can build this up. We're going to have the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and the Science Center down here. It's going to be a mega thing. And it's sat there. There's three buildings. You got, I think that aquarium finally ended up moving out of there, didn't it?
I think so.
And it turns out that
you can't handle the truth.
Happy Fingers Day.
Someone stole the kishka, someone stole the kishka, someone stole the kishka from the butcher shop. Who stole the kishka? Who stole the kishka? Who stole the kishka? Someone call the cop.
just leave it to me, Eric.
Yep.
I'll fix everything. I'll distract you. I'll distract your whole damn show.
We interrupt this program to annoy you and make things generally irritating.
Well, the thing is, I asked for that. Literally, I asked for that. So, that's not distracting. That's just, maybe the plan was to build it up and maybe Al Lerner was going to help with that. But he died. And Randy...
That's just the point. If Cleveland wanted to build that lakefront, that whole lakefront area up, they would have done it 20 years ago, and the Browns probably wouldn't have been in the plans. They would have probably moved them out.
Mm-hmm.
And, you can say what you want, but there are two different, there's business involved with government there, and that's where you get a lot of the issues.
And you're just in a crappy location for the stadium too, because you're landlocked. You can only really get in off of 90, 90 is just the shoreway, right?
Yeah, true. That's
so,
Route 2. That's Route 2 up there.
Okay, so you can only get in off of Route 2. Then you have the lake there. So you're landlocked severely. To build a new stadium other than the expenses would be smart. You might have to add an extra entrance and exit or two to, is that 77 out there or 71? In Brooklyn.
It goes. Brook Park is 77.
Okay, so you might need to add one or two off of 77, but that doesn't take much. So, but you could make it way more accessible than having a huge lake right behind the stadium, unless you decide to want to go in by boat. And last time I checked, that's not an option. So, to open the new stadium in Brook Park, oh, by the way, using Buffalo as an example, they are building a new stadium, but it's not going to be a dome. So,
well, the difference between the dome state, there's two major differences, and it depends on what they build. They can build a dome, they can put a lid on it, or a roof on it, but the NFL does not like that style of a dome. What the NFL likes is something that can be opened up for the air to come
retractable.
Retractable. For several reasons, one of them being that the turf doesn't have to be AstroTurf or whatever the equivalent of that is now. They can actually put live grass in there, and live grass will grow and whatever, and it's a lot better of a stadium that way. when they have put a roof on it, they have to take and put, it has to be the AstroTurf and all that crap. And that's people, or when they play on that, that's an accident waiting to happen. And that's why a lot of players don't like, they like the idea of playing in a dome, but they don't like the results of it because they can come out severely injured with that. The other thing too is if you have a retractable dome, you're probably going to be able to hold 18, 20, 25 events a year down there. And that'd be a lot of money. That'd be enough to pay for it. But as it sits, you've got, 8 games, 9 maybe? Unless you're going to Brazil or something.
Unless you're, hosting a concert and maybe a World Cup soccer game.
But the whole thing comes down to you're cutting your options in roughly a quarter, and it's empty the rest of the time.
And again, you could building in Brook Park on 176 acres, you could build around the stadium.
The whole thing, you're going to have 100 acres of that for parking, Eric. If you're having that many cars, you know how much room 70,000 people, 75,000 people worth of cars, how much room that's going to take. It ain't going to be easy.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much room you'd have left over to build. You might have 50, 60 acres, which would probably work. Even at 25 or 30. Look at what the NFL's or the Hall of Fame's done down here.
Exactly.
And that's what the idea of the whole NFL is right now. They want to expand into their own buildings and that, and put restaurants and everything else in there.
But bring in the developers that developed the Hall of Fame.
Well, that's why he may be able to do that.
Well, again, you might not be able to do a village because you're going to have a lot of that land for parking. But it just makes sense to do the dome. And by the way, the Haslams would just make way more money because it would be Chimo parking versus having people needing to walk 3 to 4 blocks. Like for me, when I went to the Jacksonville game, we had to park all the way in the warehouse district.
Personally, I'd like to see them put trams down there to bring, or if they build a new stadium, they need to put trams in there to move the people around.
Yeah, and that was never even part of the plan.
Effectively played Disney World, where they got the motorized trams that run around, and they go to each parking lot and drop the people off, and then they go back and pick more people up, and go to each parking lot and drop them off again.
I'm going to bring up a place that we consider public enemy number 1 here, but it is very illustrative because of where it is located, and that is to say Pittsburgh. Their arenas, stadiums are pretty much in the same area of downtown. What was the replacement for Three Rivers? It's had at least 2 different names. I'm going to just call it by its old name, Heinz Field. And then the baseball park, which is PNC Park. I went down there for a concert with my brother-in-law 2 years ago. That's why I even know this. It's set up in a way that it seems to me that particular arrangement is landlocked too. There really isn't a whole lot of area for the Roonies or the owners of the Pirates to expand and acquire more land. Now, I think it's probably, if I remember right, it's probably easier access. That might be the one advantage that Heinz Field or Acrisure Stadium, whatever in the world it's called today, and PNC Park have over what we're dealing with is that it is in an area that is right on the main bus lines, I think, and it's fairly easy access to other parts of downtown, and that to me is the main advantage. But in terms of expanding, I don't think that the Rooney family really has a whole lot more room to expand, to do do what the Haslams are suggesting, which is add restaurants or hotel rooms or something like that. That's just the one thing I noticed when I was in Pittsburgh about 2 years ago.
Well, what they could do here, what we could do here, if we're going to build, or if we're going to stay in Cleveland at the original stadium and just redo it for $1 billion, we can take. What we can do is go to the lake and dig a trench that comes in off the lake, and we make a little moat or a little travel area there, so that we can take boats in and go up and down through the restaurant area, and then dock all our boats at the stadium and go and watch a game.
I mean, the Browns got screwed in the Gateway project. That would have been the ideal place to put a stadium.
Yeah.
Once the Gateway project
No. But the main contributor to that not happening was Mr. Arthur P. Modell. That is a fact. He was offered that Gateway project, and he said, "No, I want to stay down here I want my own stadium. I don't want to move in with anybody else. That's it. I'm not doing it." And then he moves his damn team to Detroit or to Baltimore. He screwed us in a lot of ways back then, and nobody saw that. And that's why to this day I hold a vengeance against that man, even though he's long gone. They try to tell everybody, well, he took him. He was the first one to come up with a contract for watching the footballs on TV, and it brought them millions of dollars and blah 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 blah. Well, what did he do? His negatives far outweighed the positives of that man, and there ain't no way in hell he deserves to be in the NFL Hall of Fame. I don't care. You can call me a grumpy old man or whatever you want to do. That's how I feel about him.
That's the way I feel about him too. He screwed us royally. And you're right. He had first right of refusal to the Gateway project, and because he was too proud or too stubborn or whatever in the hell it was that was motivating him at the time, he didn't want any part of that project, and he probably could have had most of what he was looking for, if not more. And that lakefront area where old Muni was could have been just leveled, and we could have decided, and Cleveland could have decided, okay, we're going to do something else with that. We'll actually develop the lakefront. We won't worry about a stadium there, and we'll do something else with it.
I mean, how long did it take them to rebuild the flats? And that is actually very presentable and nice.
That's actually going through its third renovation in 20 years.
I know. It's super nice. And
back when they originally did the flats, they did the one side, and then the side that had Tiffany's on it was all pretty much titty bars. And it was all X-rated and whatever. And the X-rated, they decided that Cleveland didn't like the idea of having an adult community like that down there, and that they thought it was leading to prostitution and everything else, and decided that they'd quietly move those places out. And Tiffany's was the last place that stayed there, as far as I know. I don't know if they're still there or not. I haven't been down there in about 20 years. But I've been to Tiffany's. It was a really nice place.
I don't think they're still open.
my son's eyes about popped out of his head when I took him in there. He's 20 years old or 19 years old, and I took him there. We took him there. He was part of his sister's 21st birthday, I think it was. So he would have been about 23 or 24. And he was an introverted child, and hadn't really seen life the way that life presents itself sometimes. And when we took him in there, his eyes was as big as saucers. And he was going, whoa, 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 whoa. Kind of like you'd be if we took you to a place like, Eric, you and I need to go to the flats sometimes, or out there in Brook Park. But I don't think those places are even there anymore.
No. I could tell you at least the East Bank. Was Tiffany's East Bank or West Bank?
It was on the other side of all the decent bars back then. I think it must have been on the west. Was it west?
Okay.
It was on the opposite side of the. All the cool bars were on the other side. Where all the teenagers and or partiers.
The side where, like, I don't know if you know or you've been to Jacob's Pavilion at Nautica, but that's East Bank, and that's a really nice area.
All right, then it was the West Bank.
Yeah.
Because that's been there a while.
Because Wolstein actually built up. Wolstein is the reason that the East Bank is what it is now.
I actually went to see back in 2006, 2007. I actually went down there to see Southside Johnny at that Nautica.
Okay.
At that pavilion that they had just got that done. It was all walled in and it was kind of like tarped over. And Southside Johnny and the Asbury Jukes were there. It was a good concert. It was one of the 3 times I've seen him, and I've mosh pitted every time. Did you ever mosh pit, Evan?
No, can't say I have. Well, I was in the old Odeon a long time ago, and that would have been a prime place to be a mosh pit because it was nothing but an open floor, as I recall.
Yeah, we mosh pitted there for. They had Southside was down here in the falls one time. That's where I learned to mosh pit. He started letting everybody come up to the side of the stage, although that was a picky man right there, boy. He was strange. I know people that knew him, and he took and had he allowed people into the pit. And the next thing you know, the place was just rocking. And he was ending his set. And it was pretty cool. I had a lot of fun doing that. And then I saw him in downtown Cleveland the one time, and then I saw him out here at another place in the falls. Well, this was before they built that idiotic stage down there that nobody liked. He came in and took one look at it and said, I ain't ever performing here again. And they put him on a trailer under the Portage Trail Bridge, and he did a concert down there, and that was the last time he ever come here. That would have been about mid-80s, late 80s. Chicago Falls used to really get some good bands down there. They had 2 summers there that was really, they were rock legends. I once saw U2 down there on Labor Day one year. I saw one of the coolest bands, and they weren't really known. Eric, you might not even know this guy at all. It was Dr. Hook and the Medicine Show.
Nope.
You know,
yeah, you're right.
You know Dr. Hook, Ev?
I remember a little bit of it. It was
Sylvia's
way
mother.
ahead of me. But I know a little bit about that. I've heard one or two of their songs, and I can't really pin it down exactly. But I vaguely remember hearing their stuff. It's not deep inside me. I can say that.
He did. Sylvia's Mother was one of the more popular, but everybody's heard On the Cover of the Rolling Stone. That was his. That was Dr. Madison's show. And I saw him down in Falls. I can't think of his first name. I think it was like Ted, something like that. But I actually got to meet him. I got to shake hands with Jay Giles, who had gotten out of rock and roll. I was down there for a Blues Fest one. That was what they had Hook in for. And him and Hook performed on the same stage. And Giles just sucked at what he just didn't make the change to blues music at all. And then a couple of years later he passed away. But I'm trying to think who else I saw down there. I saw the Lovin' Spoonful without the guy that did Short People.
Randy Newman.
Yeah, that was a hell of a concert there. One of probably the better ones I ever saw. But enough of my rock and roll legendary. I'm a legend. I'm a legend in my own mind.
I think I want to roll the kickoff topic into next week because I think that needs more of...
We can start arguing about it now if you want.
No. I'm tired and don't think I could put up a good argument. And I'm not going to let you win it. And I want to get...
like I did last week.
Yeah. I want to see if I could get quotes from, like, players or former players on their opinions on it. To get, people who know more than us and see what they think. So I'm trying to get quotes. I'm contacting a bunch of players and former players on social media and through people that we've had on in the past to see what I could do.
You gotta see if you can get a quote from Ken Carmen. I'd like to hear what he has to say about it.
I'm only looking for ex-players. Current players.
Oh, yeah,
I want people who are in the game, like, who actually this would affect. But I could probably reach out to Ken and have him give me a quote on what he thinks. But
it's up to you.
I'm gonna see what I could do, getting former players. I know there's a chance that we might have a former Browns practice squad kicker who's in the UFL right now, but the league has to approve him being on before he can join, because if we want to have him on during the season, the league has to approve it. The league PR has to approve. So maybe I could get him for next week because I could get his email and phone number. And he's okay with me contacting him. He just has to get approval from the league to do the interview mid-season.
Yeah, that's fine.
Anyway, so we'll talk about that next week, and we'll see if I could get opinions from players or ex-players to kind of back up what they think. And so we're not just random people giving our opinions. I mean, we are, but we'll have professionals giving their opinions too. And we could see if we agree or not. So we'll do that. But quick announcement for Radioactive. and I gotta get the name of the guest for this. I think it's Dustin. Yes, his name is Dustin. He's the father of we talked last week on this show and then yesterday on Radioactive about the business owner who just mistreats his employees just left and right. And so we're having the father of one of the employees and possibly the former employee too. We'll see if she's able to join. But we're having the father who kind of started on social media exposing the business owner for what a bad person he is. And we're doing that to get his side of the story.
Allegedly. We have to throw that word allegedly treating his employees badly.
Well, yeah, true.
And we have to watch those. We have to watch those things. I don't need to be sued.
That is a great point.
Thank you. But I'll comb my hair different and wear a hat. Maybe nobody will notice.
The bald spot ain't wisdom.
It's. I'll tell you what that bald spot is. That's the solar panel for my sexiness.
Oh, okay, Dale.
Well, it's the truth. He's the one who brought it up to me. He told me what it was.
Okay. Number one, best bit of advice: don't listen to Dale. And I have a feeling you'll cut that and play it on Sunday or something.
Who, me?
Yes.
Nah.
Just to trap me.
I wouldn't do something like that to you, Eric.
Yeah, okay.
I just tell you.
You can't handle the truth!
But anyway, so we're gonna have the story from the side of the employee or former employee on Sunday, and possibly going to have the former employee, but we're definitely gonna have her dad, who again exposed the alleged mistreatment on social media. So just wanted to make that announcement, and all I'll say is we'll see you when we see you.
Yeah, we will. Nice of you to prepare me like that. I'll let Evan say goodnight.
Good night, everybody.
We'll see y'all next week. Remember, Saturday morning's the next show. And we'll be running the Four Guys on Sports on. See you then!
Good morning, good afternoon, and good night, Pittsburgh! Pittsburgh sucks! Pittsburgh sucks! Pittsburgh sucks! Pittsburgh sucks! Someone stole the kishka, someone stole the kishka, someone stole the kishka from the butcher shop. Who stole the kishka? Who stole the kishka? Who stole the kishka? Someone called the cop. Round and firm and fully packed, it was hanging on the rack. Someone stole the kishka when I turned my back. Who stole the kishka? Who stole the kishka? Who stole the kishka? Won't you bring it back? You can take my shinka, take my fine kielbasa. You can take my fiddle head, but give me back the kishka. Who stole the kishka? Who stole the kishka? Who stole
That is our official new outro. I don't care what Pat says.
Oh, I heard back from Tyler Danberg. I caught up with him on Instagram. I told him that Bob DiBiasio is doing that talk on Thursday in the Flash. Speaking
Yeah.
He's sending it with regret. He said, can't do it. Drive back and forth. Is that what happened? Or they on spring break, or they actually back?
No, he's probably back, but he does a lot for Big Ten Plus and the Ohio State broadcasting stuff.